Stewardship is leadership. Leadership is y'all need your coffee this morning. And we talked about on the opening night this idea that we have vision, process, and people. Vision, process, people. Vision, process, people. To be able to execute projects, to be able to execute ministries, to be able to execute in the marketplace, within the church space, wherever it is, to be able to execute effectively, that we have to have that cycle going. Part of that cycle is people. And I said the other night, people are our greatest blessing, and they're our greatest curse on our teams. And that continues to be the case today. By far the greatest blessing in my life is my team. But boy, I'm telling you, it's just like family sometimes. It'll make you just cry. When I first started, y'all, I started hiring people. I was so dumb, I thought that you would just hire people and they would work. Because that's what I did, and I thought that's what you did. And I thought, I was so dumb, I thought you'd hire people and they would just care. And that goes for volunteers too, by the way, doesn't it? How come you volunteer for something and then you don't do it? It wasn't like you were getting paid. Why did you fake everybody out? I don't understand. If you say you're going to do it, no, it's not, your yes should be yes, your no should be no. I don't understand. Frustrates the crud out of us. Whether we're in the church space and you're dealing with volunteers, whether you're running a church staff, whether you're running an organization, a nonprofit, whether you're running a company like we're running. It's just, people are just a process, aren't they? And what we figured out when it comes to the organizational turnover, proper hiring, proper staffing creates a good team, and a good team lowers turnover. Now that sounds kind of obvious, but it wasn't obvious to me when I started, because we had some people working here, and then we would get this person who we thought was incredible. We finally get a thoroughbred to join the team, and we all know we need thoroughbreds on the team. But then the thoroughbreds being on the team caused problems. Because you got to have thoroughbreds. I mean, we all know you can't win the Kentucky Derby with a donkey. And I'm not talking about Louis' donkey. I'm talking about donkeys. They never saddle up the best donkey on the planet and put him in the chute for the Kentucky Derby. It doesn't happen. And, and yes, we love people. And yes, those donkeys are made in the image of God and all that sweet stuff. But around churches, we staff sometimes, and sometimes around companies, we staff for the wrong reasons. We hire people because they need a job. Bad idea. You put Mean Marge as the receptionist at the church. Looked like she was weaned on a pickle. Makes everybody that comes in the church mad. Nobody within a 5-mile radius wants to know anything about Jesus. But by God, this woman has a job. That's bad leadership. It's weak leadership. You said you were doing her a favor and you harm everyone around her, including her, because she should not be wounded and messed up sitting in that seat. It's bad. Good people keep, because Mean Marge is going to cause turnover because nobody wants to work with Mean Marge. So they'll quit. They'll do it in a passive-aggressive Christian way, but they'll quit. They'll walk out the door and you'll never know what happened. It's because they got sick of looking at Mean Marge every morning when they come in the office, or dealing with some kind of other toxicity that we as leaders allowed to be on the team, that we tolerated. John Maxwell calls it sanctioning incompetence. And so what I discovered was this, that I had some donkeys on my team. And when you bring thoroughbreds into the same stable with donkeys, no one is happy. The thoroughbreds are not happy because they don't like hanging out with donkeys. Donkeys don't like the very presence of thoroughbreds because it exposes their donkeyness. When you put high quality, excellent, go for it, get things done, shiny people next to a dull person, it exposes their dullness. You're being mean. No, I'm not being mean. I'm staffing a team. And what's weird is you can be dull at one thing and excellent at something else. You might be on the wrong bus. You might be on the wrong seat on the bus. And we need to get you where God has something for you to do, where you shine. And this calling, this codependent enabling of bad behavior in the name of being nice in Christianity is absolutely ridiculous from a leadership standpoint. And we do it all the time. I did it. I mean, I'm from the South. We're just like passive aggressive as we can be. I thought I was being nice by tolerating all this garbage just because I wouldn't confront it. I just let it go. Oh, Jesus will work it out. It'll work out. It doesn't work out. It gets worse. It's like a splinter under the skin. Finally you have to amputate stuff because you got gangrene. And it slows everything you're trying to do. All those people out there, our organization exists for the people that are not in the building. It doesn't exist for the people that are in the building. We are servants. And when you're running a church, you exist for the people that aren't there. The people out there in the highways and byways. And so you got to be excellent. You got to be shiny. And when you get thoroughbreds lined up, the turnover will stop. But boy, we've had some turnover. Now we've got it down to we lose about 3% of our people a year. We have very, very low, almost non-existent turnover because of our hiring process, because of the way we started looking at this, and because of our tolerance level of toxic stupidity. It just went away. Now, I'm not saying we shoot our wounded. We don't do that. We're sweet. Somebody's got a personal problem, we work with them. I'll tell you about all that in a minute. That's not the point. But the point is we got to get the right people on the bus, the wrong people off the bus, and the right people on the right seats on the bus, to quote my friend Jim Collins in the book Good to Great. We've got to do that. The first step to getting a good quality, high quality team is take more time when you're hiring. When I first started hiring, I thought if somebody raised their hand and wanted a job, that meant that we should hire them. I thought if they could fog up a mirror, that was our hiring test. I was teaching Sunday school over at the church and finished Sunday school, and at the end of Sunday school I said, any prayer requests? Anybody want to, we're closing up in prayer, and the guy raises his hand and says, yeah, I'm looking for a job. I lost my job last week. And I said, well, that's pretty cool. God just answered your prayer. I'm looking for some people, so why don't you come over and go to work? And he came over the next day, and we hired him, and about a week later we found out why he's looking for a job. Turns out some people in church need to be in church, but they don't need to be on my staff, representing my brand, saying who we are by their very presence. Take more time when you're hiring. I don't know how much time you take when you hire, but multiply it by 4. If you're doing 4 interviews, start doing 16. If you're doing 3, start doing 12. If you're doing 1, oh my goodness, you got a mess. You hire people off of 1 interview, and that includes volunteers. Not all volunteers volunteer for something they should be doing. We're staffing. We need to be careful and intentional and thoughtful about gifts and giftings and ministries and callings and passions and whether somebody's going to plug into something. We need to be intelligent about this process because, boy, you get some grouchy old volunteers, don't you? And it's just weird. Take more time. So we're up to now, I'll tell you where we are. We have almost no turnover because we have about a 95% turnover before we hire them. In other words, if you get the first interview, you have a 1 in 20 chance of getting hired. If you get to the interview. Now, we hired 135 people last year, and we had somewhere around 15,000 applications. Run those numbers. And keep in mind 1 in 20 times. So if we hired 135, that means we did 20 times that many singular interviews for the first. And we do a 30-minute interview at the first. Just a quick one, a drive-by. Because have you ever walked up and met somebody and you went, You know, we're not doing that. I'm sure Jesus loves you, but you ain't going to fit here. You know what I'm talking about? You just walk up and you meet them and So there's no sense spending 2 hours with them. You're not in the counseling business. You're trying to hire somebody right now. If you're going to do counseling, move them over to counseling, okay? But I'm not saying be unkind to someone, but a lot of us know in the first 3 or 4 minutes what's going on. I mean, we sit down and start talking to someone, and they go, you know, I'm living with my girlfriend, and I've just about broke my drug habit. I'm going, I'm thinking this is not a cultural fit. In the first 5 minutes, I know this about you. You know, that interview's over. We don't do more than 30 minutes. Don't do 32 minutes. And my HR director says do this. He says use your ratio of 2 ears and 1 mouth. Spend 20 of those 30 minutes listening and no more than 10 of those 30 minutes talking. And that's not contiguous, but I mean, in the give and flow of conversation, don't monopolize the conversation. If you will shut up, they will tell you what you need to know. Because what you're trying to determine is this thoroughbred or this donkey, because those donkeys dress up like thoroughbreds for interviews. And we're now up to an average of 16 interviews before you get hired with us. Is that bizarre? Because it's too painful to put the wrong people in the building and then have to extract them or them extract themselves, and we have to start the whole process over. It's so inefficient. It's more efficient to slow the process down and do it right. What Grandma used to say, anything worth doing is worth doing right the first time. Because if you hire somebody wrong and quick, you got to do it again. And time you do that 4 times, you could have multiplied your process times 4 and gotten the right one the first time, and everybody wasn't hurt in the process. Everybody's not crying and wounded, and mother's mad and everything else. And it's a tither's first cousin that you just ticked off. I mean, really. You get all this stuff going on, right? It's easier just do it right the first time. Slow down. Do it right the first time. Slow down. Take more time. One of the best books that, you ever read a book where they say what you knew was right and had been doing, but you didn't have verbiage for it, you didn't have vernacular for it? That's Pat Lencioni's new book, and you've got to read this book. It's called The Ideal Team Player. The essence, the thesis of Pat's book, Pat and I have become friends. We speak together in the leadership spaces a lot. He does Entre Leadership Summit with us and those kinds of things. I'll be with him in a couple weeks down in Orlando. Absolutely incredible little book. It's a quick read, a little parable type read. Most of his are that type, and it is absolutely incredible. He says an ideal team player has to be all 3 of these things. They have to be humble, hungry, and smart. Humble, hungry, and smart. Now, humble is not, I'm a worm, I'm worthless, I'm a sinner, I'm a horrible person. That is not humble. That's Christian passive-aggressive. Humble is simply you are other-centered instead of self-centered. It's been attributed to C.S. Lewis incorrectly, but it actually, as we've done more research, we figured out Rick Warren actually is the person who said it. Humility is not thinking less of yourself. It is thinking of yourself less. You can meet people who are competent, confident, strong personalities who are humble. They're just other-centered. It's just not all about me. It's not all about me. If you meet people and the axis of the world's running through the top of their head, you got the wrong person. So the whole thing spins around them, right? That's somebody that's not humble. And you meet people in the Christian world in particular who have a different kind of, this different kind of arrogance. It's not out there in front of you, but they're just not other-centered. When you get down to it, when it comes down to it, it's about them. And you meet them in the mainstream world too. And we don't want those folks on our team. I want somebody who puts themselves out there because they're there to serve. It changes the way they approach everything they do. And it changes their likability factor inside the organization. Because they're not always glomming, they don't become political, they're not always trying to cut somebody's throat from behind, they're not always trying to jostle their way to the front of the line, that kind of a thing. They're just serving. They're other-centered instead of self-centered. That's all it is. Hungry is ambitious, initiative. They get things done. And sometimes we don't like that. Sometimes we say, oh no, we don't want someone. Yeah, you do. You want somebody to get stuff done. You absolutely do. What the flip you putting them on the team for if they're not going to get stuff done? If they're not scratching, clawing, turning over rocks and stepping on bugs, something's up. We got stuff to do. You got to get up, leave the cave, kill something, and drag it home. I was doing a leadership conference a while back, and a guy raised his hand. He said, how do you motivate your people? I said, I don't. I gave up motivating people. I hire motivated people. I am not going to try to light wet wood. I got too much to do. I had one old boy come in, he goes, I got to quit, I'm burned out. And I said, dude, that's impossible. You were never on fire. And another one come in and start telling me how much he was worth. He said, I've got this degree. He had more degrees than a thermometer. I said, he's telling me, I got this degree. He had like 3 master's degrees and 1 doctorate. I mean, he was an educated fool. And he said, people that have these number of degrees, they make such and such in the marketplace. And I don't make that here. And he said, we need to look at adjusting my income. I said, dude, this is a small business. He said, what's that mean? I said, small business is pretty simple. Your raise is effective when you are. I don't give a rip about your degrees. Did they teach you something that caused you to be able to do something? That's what I care about. If that puts some tools in your belt that helps you build something, go build something. If it didn't, go back and get another degree because this is your hobby. But, we get stuff done around here, man. This is what we're doing. There's too much to do, too many things to build, too many hurting people on the other side of these doors that need us to serve them and love them. Me in here talking to you about what you're worth. Well, I try proving it. I'm constantly having a conversation with the marketplace, and sometimes they look at me and say, you suck. And that means we're not making money on that project. That project failed. That's a conversation with the marketplace. The marketplace will gauge you and judge you. It'll tell you what works and what doesn't. And, we all experience that. So you got to be hungry. Les Brown, the great motivator, you ever heard Les speak? He said, you got to be hungry. I love that. Hungry! You got to be sick and tired of being sick and tired. You got to be hungry. You got to have that thing going. You got a motor running, I want those people on my team. I want to walk beside them for the next decade or two, don't you? I want people that are humble and hungry. And I want them to be smart. By smart, I don't mean intelligent. I don't mean well-educated, although those are wonderful things. By smart, I mean people smart. Can they get things done by working with other people? Do they play well with others? You ever met somebody who was really bright but people dumb? They make everybody mad because they're people dumb. And, if you can just learn to work with other people, you can get a lot of stuff done. But if you don't, it's a singular thing your whole life, trying to do it all by yourself. And some of you are really smart and really good and all that kind of stuff, and you can get a lot done. That's fine. Go get a lot done. But we have found that if we can have people who are hungry, humble, and smart, that they fit in our organization. If they are missing 2 of those, it's glaring, and you'll probably find that in the interview. If they're missing one, if they're missing 1/2 of one of those, you won't find it. And you can train through some of it. You can mentor and disciple through some of it. Somebody that wants to learn to be people smart, you can teach them how to be people smart. Somebody that you say, listen, you're not showing any initiative. You need to be hungry. They can say, oh yeah, okay, I didn't know I could do that here. Okay, then let's see you do it. Get after it, boy. Right? And that's what we're doing. And we just, we have these conversations. These sales guys. I got these sales guys, and sometimes half the time all they want to do is sell me on how good they are. I'm like, dude, I'm not the customer. You need to go sell somebody that gives you money. That's how this works. This is a transaction here. I'm not the sale. You already got hired. You made that sale. Now go prove this, Yep. And I always just look at them and go, just do it. Just go do it. Shut up. Just go do it. Talk about all these things you're going to do. Try doing it. And you can train through some of these things, can't you? But if you're missing in one of these, it'll be glaring. If they're missing that humility one, but they're people smart and they're hungry, you know what that becomes? Politician. Don't they? They politic all over the place because, they're not humble. It's all about them, but they're people smart. They know how to manipulate. And they're ambitious. And they'll drive wedges all through your place if they're missing that one. Or if they're missing the hungry, but they're humble and they're people smart, He's so sweet. He's just the nicest. She's just the sweetest lady. It's just so hard to fire them because everybody just likes them. They don't do nothing, but everybody likes them. You know what I'm talking about? You can start to see who these people are. And if they're humble and they're hungry, but they're not people smart, they get a lot of stuff done, but everybody's mad. All those projects have wounded humans around them because they get stuff done, but it's in spite of or over the top of people, and you're always picking up bodies around the projects, right? This book is really good, y'all. You need to read it. Because we went through and went, oh, that person we let go, that was what was wrong. Oh, this person we're struggling with, that's what's wrong. Oh, that leader that we really, really struggled with for 4 years, that was what he was missing. You know, and we just went, it was like this eye-opening epiphany experience reading through this stuff. So we put this hiring process in place. The last step of our hiring process is we do a spousal interview and a personal budget. Now, we do not do the personal budget because we're Dave Ramsey and we want to see if you've got a credit card. We're not a cult. We know we're not a cult because we regularly ask people to leave. So we do a budget because we have figured out that if you can't live on what we are paying for this position, very soon you will be mad at us. That church doesn't pay enough over there. That company, they say they're a Christian company and they underpay. They don't pay enough. Which is always amazing to me because you took the job. We didn't change the pay after you came. What's the problem? But it's the way people's minds work, isn't it? And I'm greedy because you can't live on what I pay that you agreed to work for. But that's how it works. And so we quit hiring people. We do a basic budget. You know, they need $95,000 to balance their budget. We're paying $45,000. This is not going to work. They're going to be mad at us and looking for a job within 3 weeks. As soon as that first or second paycheck clears, they're going to figure out this doesn't work. And you will turn the nicest people in the world into the meanest people in the world if you hire them and they can't live on what you're paying. So we just check it because we're servant leaders and we want to make sure that the people under our care are being cared for. And sadly, some of them can't do math. So it is incumbent upon us to make sure that if you're going to be part of our family, that you can feed your kid based on what we pay for this position. And if it's not a fit, it's not a fit. Sometimes we can adjust it a little bit, but you know, we're not going to double the pay for this position because your budget's out of control. We'll send you to FPU. We help you. We love you, but that's not, you need $95,000, we pay $45,000. That's not going to work. And we do the spousal interview because of Proverbs 31. Who can find a virtuous wife? For her worth is far above rubies. The heart of her husband safely trusts her. And look at this. He will have no lack of gain. One of the reasons our company is inordinately successful and just recently for the 10th time won Best Place to Work in Nashville is because when we get ready to hire someone, the last interview is we go out to dinner with that person and their spouse and our spouse. It started with me and Sharon back in the day. We don't do these interviews anymore. We hired 135 people last year. All we do is go to dinner. But one of our leaders, one of our vice presidents or executive vice presidents or senior directors or whoever it is that's going to hire somebody, and their spouse will go out to dinner with you and your spouse if you're coming on our team as the last step. And it's very informal. You're pretty much hired by then. You've gone through all this other stuff and you're pretty much there. But what we discovered is this. When I was going broke, I was pedal to the metal, driving my car down the road as fast as I could go. The signs along the side of the road said, bridge out, bridge out, bridge out. My wife was sitting beside me saying, this doesn't feel right. She's from the hills of East Tennessee. I have a bad feeling. Them signs said, bridge out, bridge out, bridge out. And I'm like, I've got the finance degree. I got this. Whang! Into the river. I don't make major financial decisions anymore without Sharon and I both being in agreement. And hiring someone's a major financial decision. We don't make major gifts. We don't enter into big contracts. Now, we don't ask her about buying copier paper. But big stuff, Sharon, who's a full-time mom, for 30 years, 31 years now. Big stuff, before we sit down with a publisher and do a deal, she meets the players. Because if she gets a bad feeling, we don't go forward. Every time I go against one of those feelings, it costs me at least 10 grand. And besides that, that woman has these antennae on her head that God gave her. She has a donkey detector. And so we ask your spouse and you to go home and pray after dinner. And we don't ask you what you think. We already know what you think. You wouldn't have made it that far in the interview process. We ask you what you feel. What's God saying? Is this what you're supposed to do? And sometimes your spouse will tell you, don't do this. And we go home and we pray and we say, I'm driving away from the dinner, honey. How'd you feel? I don't ask her what she thinks. How'd you feel about those people? About that guy? Oh, he's solid. Let's do it. Good. Which is 99% of the time. Because if she ever lays that trump card on the table, she does it with trembling hands because she knows we're not going to hire him because of her. And it scares her to have that much power, which means she is a virtuous woman. She's not throwing her weight around. She doesn't want this responsibility. If they relish in the idea that they have control, that's not whose counsel you're looking for. These are people's lives you're holding in your hands. And man, we have avoided some stuff. We got ready to hire one old boy, and he was a kind of a party guy from a local radio station. Not kind of, he was a complete party guy. But you know how me and another guy, Blake Thompson, my producer, and this guy, we liked this guy. He liked us. We had cut up when we were on the radio. We had fun around the radio station and all this. But we knew about his personal life. But you know how three old boys will figure out something's going to work that's not? We figured out this was going to work, and so we go through the whole interview process, and so we go out to dinner, Blake and Tanya and Sharon and me and this guy and his wife. This guy's wife is country. No, I mean, she's country. Backwoods country, right? So we go through the whole dinner. The woman doesn't say boo. She's backward. I mean, she's quiet. I'll never forget where I was sitting. I can show you the steakhouse I was sitting in. I can show you the booth I was sitting in. I had my fork right over the key lime pie. Isn't that funny? You can remember exactly what was going on. Right at the end of the meal, she finally speaks up and she goes, y'all are like real religious, ain't you? I said, if you mean like take Bibles and kill people with them, no. But if you mean like we love Jesus and we got our life off of that, yes. That's what I thought. He ain't gonna fit in. Mic drop. She just spoke truth, didn't she? The woman just walked in and said, the emperor has no clothes, the boy is butt naked. I start laughing, Blake starts laughing, the guy starts laughing. All three of our wives are looking at us like we've lost our minds because she has just spoken truth. And we were plowing right over the top of that, weren't we? We were going ahead anyway. We did not hire him because of that statement. Because she was right, and it just ran down our spines, didn't it? She spoke it. And we didn't hire him. Good news is, later on, he did meet Jesus and straightened up his life. He works for a station down in Charleston, South Carolina. Now, he's a great guy, still a friend to this day. But if we'd have hired him, we'd have killed him, and you'd never found the body. I mean, he would have been, it'd have been bad, y'all. And have you ever hired somebody that was perfectly good, but they were married to crazy? See, you want to find that too, don't you? That one guy, we got ready to hire him, and we're going to do the final interview. His wife called, and she's screaming and cussing like a congressman on the phone, and I mean, just carrying on, and at the words I never heard 13-year-old boys use, man. I mean, it's unbelievable. I'm like, what is your deal, lady? Who the blankety blank blank do you think you are? You have the right to interview me. And I'm like, it's okay, baby, we won't. It's all right. And she said, why do you do that anyway? I said, to find people like you. I mean, that old boy's married to a test pilot for a broom factory, you know? I mean, She takes his spine out every morning before he leaves. I'm going to hire an invertebrate. You know, it's just, oh. Y'all been through this too, haven't you? You know what I'm talking about. Our first step when we get ready to hire people is we pray. We ask God to send us who he wants us to work with, who he wants on our team. We say, Lord, you know the work you've got for us to do. Lord, we're trying to do your thing. We're trying to feed your lambs. Lord, send us who you want. And Lord, please keep your crazy children away. Because, Father, some of your children are nuts. Oh, and there's nothing flakier than a Christian flake. Oh, man. I mean, you could end up interviewing this guy. Oh, man. So, subtracting from the team. Once you've got folks on the team members eventually have to perform or they have to leave. And if you don't deal with that, you're not leading. You're an enabler. And you're always going to have a toxic, drama-filled, crazy-filled, donkey-filled organization. And you're going to dread coming to work at the place you own. So you have to deal with it. And it's never pleasant. If you love beating up on people, you're a bully, and you're not a leader. That's not who we want to be. We want to be loving and kind. But I have figured out that we have to be very clear. What Donald was saying yesterday about confusion and clarity. But when it comes to communicating with our team, when there's something out of kilter and you don't say it because you're trying to be nice, that's not being nice. To be unclear is to be unkind. You don't need to be harsh or mean or yelling or nasty, but you need to be very clear. You owe the other person that. You owe them clarity. And that takes more backbone than dancing around the side of it and calling yourself Christian. I did that for a long time. I made a lot of mistakes with that because I was trying to be nice. I love people. I've got a big old soft heart. I'm real brash and sarcastic in my teaching style, but I'm never mean to people directly on, in person when I'm like this, and I'm never doing that. I'm mean to them on Twitter, but that doesn't count. But I mean, I'm never nasty to somebody when I'm correcting them or rebuking or guiding or mentoring or discipling. I'm never, no, just kind. But I had to learn to be unbelievably clear because I figured out my frustration level was growing if they didn't change because I hadn't told them, and that's unfair to them because they don't even know why I'm mad. They don't even know why I'm displeased with the situation because I haven't been clear. This, you can stay, this behavior can't stay. You can't act like this here. There's only 3 reasons team members fail. Number 1, leadership failure. 70% of the people in our organization that have failed were our fault in the early days. Today, very, very small percentage of people that fail are our fault. Because when they fail and it's our fault, it includes hiring someone who should have never been hired in the first place. A bad hiring procedure. We allowed a donkey in. See, every time Crazy gets in my building, I found out what door they used. And we put a lock on that door. Because Crazy, when I have to stop and deal with Crazy, I can't get stuff done. When I have to stop and deal with drama, I can't get stuff done. It's a task, it's a practical thing for me. So we got to figure out, if Crazy gets in the building, how did they get in here? And keep them out. That's leadership. And if a Crazy gets in, if somebody who is completely dysfunctional gets through our hiring process and and ends up in our building, it's our fault. Unless they're just a master psychopath manipulator, But even then, we need to test determines master psychopath manipulators. I mean, it's too harmful to the organization and to our time and everything else. So it's my fault. It's our fault that we let someone in the building. Leadership failure can be you don't give them the tools to win, which includes telling them very clearly what their job is. Most organizations, like 90-something% of the organizations, do not have written job descriptions. Absolute disaster. We call them KRAs, key results areas. It's just 3 bullet points. You do these 3 things, you're winning. By definition, if you're not doing these 3 things, you're not winning. You'd be amazed the number of times you think you have told them what winning looks like, and they have no idea, and they're over here working really hard at the wrong thing. And you're frustrated with them because they're not doing the thing you thought that they were supposed to be doing, but they think they're supposed to be doing something else. That's your fault. Write it down. Like our receptionist, her title is, she's the director of first impressions. And she has 3 bullet points. The first one is answer the phone in 2 rings. Thousands of phone calls a day. Thousands, going to 600 different people. And she has to route those. One person. You answer the phone in 2 rings. If it rings 3 times, Janelle, what's wrong? Huh? Rang 3 times. We don't have 3-time rings. You have 1 job. Answer the phone in 2. That's your number 1 thing, 2 rings. Because after 2 rings, nobody's home. It's not okay. Do you need new software? Do you need a backup? Are you tired? Do you need some coffee? 2 rings. This is your job. We know that. When they don't know what they're supposed to be doing, it's taking them bowling and turning out the lights. There's noise, but we don't know who's winning. It's not fair to people. That's a leadership failure. The second reason people fail is personal problems. We do not shoot our wounded. People have personal problems. We walk with them. We give you grace. We give you a chance to come through the personal problem. Whatever it is, we're going to be there with you. And you get, if you're an A player, you get the ability to play at B level while you go through this. You ever had somebody on your team go through a divorce? They are useless for about 90 days. Usually right before and just after the divorce. Sometimes it's like post-traumatic stress disorder and it comes after the divorce. Sometimes it straddles the divorce, but most of the time it's the build-up to the divorce. Because, I mean, how many of us are married? You ever have a really good fight with your spouse and then go to work? You get anything done that day? No. Well, just multiply that times 1,000 and you got somebody in the middle of a divorce, right? They're not going to get anything done because their brain is scrambled with emotions and anger and regret and sorrow and all these other things. They're thinking about anything except work right then. And that's okay. We love you. We're going to walk with you. I got a leader going through a divorce. I bring in the team. He tells them what's going on. I said, that means his brain's not working good right now. So you guys on the team and me and other leaders, we got to come alongside him. We got to hold his arms up. We got to walk with him while he goes through this. And he'll return to work with his brain when he gets to the other side of this. Or we'll have to deal with that. So we quantify the size of the personal problem when there's a personal problem, and we say, how much organizational damage is this person's mental absence going to cause, and how do we need to backfill during this time? So I had a lady walk into my office, and a tear ran down her face, and her lip was quivering. And I said, what's wrong, honey? And she said, my baby's sick. Oh, no. What's wrong? Daycare called, he's running a fever. Oh, okay. And then my mind started working. I remembered it was her first child. She just had him. First week, she dropped him at the daycare. Very hard week for her, right? And so I said, well, it's 4 o'clock. Just go on home and pick him up, and he'll be okay. Papa Dave's got, he's okay. And you kind of go, give her an hour off. She's not working anyway. Her brain's unplugged right now. Small problem, right? The lady walked in 2 weeks later, tear ran down her cheek, and her lips started quivering. I said, what's wrong? My baby's sick. I said, what? What's wrong? Doc says it's cancer. 3 years old. Little Lexi. Shauna was in accounting. She's still in accounting. She does purchasing for us in another area now. She's been with me almost 15 years. And I said, well, what's the deal? And she said, well, it's leukemia, childhood leukemia. And I said, well, what's the prognosis? It looks like we're going to have chemo for the next 6 months and be fighting this. And I said, all right, baby doll, we got this. We're with you. And I said, walk with me down here. And I walked down to our HR guys, and I said, Shauna just told me. And HR guy goes, yeah, she just told me too. And she's standing there. And he said, we got it. And I said, what's that mean? And he said, the ladies have already organized a spreadsheet. Their meals are cooked for the next 6 months. The guys have already organized a spreadsheet, and their yard is cut for the next 6 months. And I said, Shauna, you have the next 6 months off with pay. It doesn't count against your vacation time. You go take care of your baby. Right? You know why companies don't have loyalty from their people? Because they're not loyal to their people. It's a pretty simple thing. Here's your HR manual. You want your HR manual? Treat other people like you want to be treated, which includes firing their butt when they misbehave. Treat other people like you'd want to be treated. Good news is little Lexi made it. She's 15 now, but we had a little bald-headed baby running around the office for a while there. She was over at the office the other day. We were doing a dinner, and the kid walked through, and she's a teenager now, and it just blows my mind. And well, I'll tell you this: if you're at a party around Nashville and you see a little lady about this tall with a kind of a gray streak through her hair right here, named Shauna, if you want to say something bad about Dave Ramsey, I would suggest you don't do it around her. Isn't that how it works? So it's not hard, y'all. You just love people well. And that includes being clear with them when they're out of line. And treat them well. How would you want your kid to be treated if they worked at your place? How would you want your sister or your brother to be treated if they worked at your place? Well, I would expect them to get their work done, wouldn't you? I'd expect them to be excellent and bring it. And if they didn't, I'd expect you to fire them. And give them warning, show them what to do, but I expect you to fire them. And that's what we do. We set them free in Jesus' name. We give them every chance in the world to turn it around, but you're gone. We've had, oh boy, I had a guy drop a letter off at the office this week. 16 years ago, I fired him because he was addicted to porn. And we put him, paid for counseling. We did all this stuff. We did all the stuff you're supposed to do, right? We're kind to him, and but addicts, if you've not worked with addicts much, we work with them a lot. Because 100% of addicts have financial problems, right? So we get to deal with all kinds of addicts, and porn is just insidious. There's more revenue produced by porn than all professional sporting events put together in America right now. It is the dirty little secret. It's unbelievable, and so and then they bring it on my computers at my office that Jesus owns. You put that on, a different kind of mad. But I'm sitting down with this old boy. We did everything we could, and he just lied and lied and lied and lied. Addicts, poor addicts, they just lie. It's like their hobby. And so we finally just said, you can't stay. And we sent him home, and us firing him was him hitting bottom. He lost his wife, lost his family, lost his job, lost his standing, moved to another city, started over, but got in 12-step. And I hadn't seen him in 16 years, and he dropped a letter off this week saying, thank you for firing me. You saved my life. You'll have those experiences too. And he said, I remember you sitting there with tears in your eyes going, we've done everything we can do. It's now up to you. And I did. It's broke my heart because I wanted him to make it. You ever been there? I wanted him to make it, but I wanted him to make it worse than he wanted to make it. And that's why you turn into an enabler if you're not real careful. Last one is incompetence. Lots of kinds of incompetence. Incompetence most people think of as they just don't know how to do their job. And that's one kind. And that one's fairly easy because a lot of times you can train people. They're not good at this type of programming. You can train them up on programming. I've got one lady who can sell ice to Eskimos, but you can't enter the orders. She has keyboard phobia. She doesn't like a computer. Well, you can hire somebody to do my enters. No, darling, you're going to learn to enter them. So we got, this 58-year-old woman who's a brilliant salesperson in computer class trying to teach her old dog new tricks, right? And she'll learn it because she cares and she'll get it. But we just have to train her up. She's incompetent at that area. If she doesn't become competent, she's not going to make it. And she knows that, and we know that, and we hope she learns to do the keyboard because she's a really good salesperson, and I'm not going to hire her a personal assistant. It's not happening. So deal with it. And that's incompetence. You can't do your job. And That's what we always think of when we think of incompetence. But sometimes incompetence is that the people that you hired were raised by wolves. Their social skills are zero. I have them come in with their no belt and a hat sideways and all this. And I'm like, dude, we don't have a punk rock band here. Buy you a belt and take your hat off once you come in the building. And some of these ladies come in, and our ladies have to, one of our executive vice presidents is a lady that she's tough, man. And she pulls some of these young girls aside and says, listen, darling, we don't have a stripper pole here. You got to put some clothes on. And, and it's just like hardcore. Wear something, make men look at your eyes. And on the other side, sometimes we have to teach these men how to be gentlemen. We're not going to have a sexual harassment lawsuit at our place. We may have a murder. My daughters work there, You're not going to act like that. And we have one old guy's a creeper, and he's just creeping around, and these girls are like, he's a creeper. And he's like touchy, and I'm like, are you just sensitive? No, he's like touchy. And then 2 or 3 of them is like, he's a creeper. Okay, we sat him down and said, look, you're a creeper, dude. You need to quit creeping. And these girls are freaked out. Quit being a creeper. And he's all, over 50 years old, and he's like dirty old man or something. And we're like, dude, stop. He goes, you're politically correct. I'm not politically correct. I'm a lot of things, but politically correct is not on the list. So stop your creeping, dude. You can't creep. Well, it's just how I am. No, it's not how you are. It's an action. It's a decision. So here's your deal. When females are involved, put your hands in your pockets and take 2 steps back. They don't like you being around. And you have a bad reputation, and you're going to take you a while to heal that internal brand inside this organization. And if you don't heal that internal brand, you're not going to be inside this organization. We don't do creepers. This is how it sounds at our place. And he's like, well, okay, I don't know if I agree with this. It's just how I am. I'm like, it ain't just how you are. It's time for you to change. Just decide. Change. Right? It's a decision. You can decide. I'm just kind of grouchy. Smile. It's a decision. Sometimes you have to mentor people on how to behave, don't you? You got to love them well, because their daddy and mama didn't know how to teach them. And so you end up with some parenting for 56-year-olds. So it's just part of the process. So creeper boy don't work there anymore because he kept creeping. But because, and a weird thing was, one of those ladies' husbands came to me at the party we were having the other night, and he said, thank you. My wife works in a place where she's safe because of men like you. Thank you. Yeah, dadgum right. And we didn't overreact to it. We're not mean about it. But, if 3 different girls come up, then there's something going on. This guy's out of control. You don't need to be telling those jokes. They're not funny. It's not funny. You're not a 13-year-old boy in a locker room. We're not impressed with your words. It's simple stuff, y'all. Treat people right. That's a type of incompetence. Sometimes people are thieves. They steal. I fire a thief on the spot. We don't have any rehab program for thieves. That's a deal breaker for me. And if you're going to steal anything, then I can't trust you. And if I can't trust you, how do I trust you? And organizations move at the speed of trust. And so I can't get anything done because every time I turn my back on you, I got to put a camera up. Oh my gosh, get out of my building. And we do another one, and people get mad about this, and some of y'all get mad, maybe, I don't know, but it's all right, get mad if you want to. This is my company. I'm going to do what I want. If you decide you're going to sleep with somebody you're not married to, we fire you. Because if your spouse can't trust you, how do we trust you? Pretty simple stuff. Well, you can't do that. Yes, I can. Adulterers are not a protected federal class. Absolutely, I can do that. It's a moral failure. I can fire you. Tennessee is an employment at will state. You are in my employment at my will. That's what the law says. And, I'll file with the EEOC. Do it. Have at it. We've had one over all these years because we're kind to people. And we tell them up front what the rules are. We don't make them up as we go. You know this when you're hired, right? We had one guy file with the EEOC. And irony of ironies, he filed because we didn't hire him because he is a Christian. Dude, where is your brain? You should have gone the other way. It might have worked, but that way ain't going to work. So then the EEOC guy comes over and he goes, yeah, well, it's time for us to do mediation on this, and what are you going to offer? And I said, I'm not going to offer to do mediation, and I won't offer a dime. He gets nothing. And the guy goes, well, you know, everyone does mediation, and everyone makes some kind of an offer. And I said, see, you'll never be able to say that again. He moved to Minnesota and tried it with 3 more companies. That's how he made his living. And then the last time the filing came through, we said, okay, fly to Tennessee for the deposition, and you're going to pay your attorney to sit in on the deposition because this is now a lawsuit. It's not a mediation. And, you know, they dropped the complaint. Isn't that weird? Yeah, he got what he deserved, 0. So, because I'm a steward of God's stuff, and I don't believe in giving God's money to con men. Period. So I'm a hillbilly. We'll fight. We don't do drive-by shootings. We move in next door and lay siege. Okay? This idea of handling conflict well, kindly, clearly, is a type of organizational mental health. The hiring of bringing people on, the way you treat people when they're on, how you handle your culture, how you build that, you are stewarding the mental health of your organization. You are managing it for God. You are representing God in how these people are treated and how you love them, whether you're strong with them, whether you're kind and gentle with them, how you play this through, treating other people like you want to be treated. The way you play this through, organizational mental health is more important. It's a higher indicator of the organization's success than the talent on the in the organization, the intellect and the degrees in the organization. We have gotten in this culture where we worship talent and we worship degrees, and we act like that those things are the things that cause people to win. What causes people to win is when they work well together. That is an organizational competitive advantage, because most organizations don't work well together. They deal with all these toxins because they won't deal with the internal pressures to clear the toxins all the time. And we spend all our time working on the toxins, and that's why our little tribe of 600 people is a major national brand and moves more things around than 6,000 person companies move around. Our advantage is our cohesiveness, our organizational mental health, our unity, but we work so hard at that. But it causes us to win. Stewardship is leadership. Leadership is stewardship. It's an honor to be with you all. We'll see you this afternoon.